you're trying to build a relationship between the POS and the ATMs. Yeah. We'll touch on that, in the course of this conversation. But I'd like us to just talk about this 150 million naira fine. You don't expect it to have any significant impact on the bank's operations and profitability? Like
I said, if you're in business, what you normally look at is the relationship between costs and profit. If banks, with your sharing ratio, whatever, they are making about 500 billion from the charges they impose on Nigerians to withdraw their cash through POS in just 1 year. You can imagine.
Only on charges?
Yes, only on charges. And I've spoken to some of my friends in the operations department of some of these banks, and they were able to just run their cost profile to show that the cost of maintaining these ATM machines, and not just in supplying electricity, putting inverter, the security issue, and even the cash movement, all this cash in transit movement, the cost associated to cash and cash maintenance and that facility, is a bit heavy on their cost of operation within that department. So this is just a cost management. But what are we talking about? Banks, we know, are probably the only sector that is even gaining from the depressed economy. We've seen their profit growing by astronomical numbers over the years. So trying to say that they are doing what they are doing in order to reduce the cost of operating this ATM doesn't really add up. And what are we talking about? Nigeria is one of the countries in the emerging market where we have the lowest number of POS per 1,000. As we speak now, we have about 14 ATM machine per 100,000 is what we have in Nigeria. In countries like Egypt, we have about 3 ATM machine per 100,000. So in terms of per capita of ATM machine, Nigeria is one of the lowest in the world. But even those lowest is still not functioning. And the people suffering this implication are the poorest of the poor that we want to help. The big men can transfer, they have other, credit card, different ways, of doing their transaction. But the guys that will need to withdraw 20,000, 10,000, 5,000, they need to pay 200 naira to withdraw 5,000. And need to pay 400 naira to withdraw 10,000 are most affected.
But what more do we know about the CBN cash distribution guideline? What specific requirements did you think the banks failed to meet to attract this fine?
Unfortunately, I am not in the regulatory department of CBN, neither am I in the operation department of these commercial banks. But over time, CBN had issued warnings to them that these ATM machines need to work, whether it is public holiday, whether it is weekend or whatever.
Because it sounds like we're placing all the responsibility on the banks, that they are responsible to ensure seamless flow of cash. But when you go to them, what they say is they don't have the cash. You don't think the Apex Bank also shares in this responsibility? They are supposed to supply cash to these deposit banks, right?
Oh, thank you very much. There is this silent relationship between the banks and POS operators. Between the banks and POS operators. And unfortunately, like I said, I've read out the number of what POS operators did in last year, about 84 trillion. Transaction done on that platform. So that is where the major cash, live cash, is residing.
You think they get their cash from the banks?
I don't think so, but like I said, there is a silent, undocumented relationship between.
Because as of December last year, we were reporting that there were no cash in the banks, and that POS operators had to mop up the cash from markets, and they had to find other ways to get the cash. My question really has to do with, if the banks are saying we don't have cash, should we hold them responsible for that in the real sense of it?
This cash management has its value chain. Like you said, CBN and Apex Bank, their own is to issue currency and make sure it flows. The commercial banks and other types of banks. But there are one intermediary that is very important here, which is I can call cash in transit operators. That move this money maybe from the market to the bank and from the bank to the PO. They are very, very important to relate with as far as this conversation is concerned. I'm not going to make any case for banks, but we have seen banks doing as much as they can to ensure that they cut their costs, reduce risk as much as possible, and make money through through the soft channels of, I can call it non-interest income, fees, charges and thereabout. They are comfortable in doing those things, especially where the risk is at the lowest. Every businessman will really need to do that. And that is why we need the central bank. And I've said that this cash we say, bank is saying that it's not available. If the CBN can up the sanction beyond just cash, what is 150 million for a bank? It's not even up to a drop of water in their ocean of revenue. If they can up it by threatening or even withholding or suspending a particular service that is a bit juicy for them, maybe for 1 month, I think that will be... This cash we say is not available. I assure you, they will find it and put it in the ATM machines.
So